Okay, so as we move into this next stage, this is where, for some of you, this is the exciting stuff. This is like the actual business Team Maria stuff. And it's a ton of fun. The way I do things as a leader is very laid back, but I'm like everything else, I'm very practical and I'm very like, let's make the system do the work so we don't have to. And so I have a system for hiring that I think is very nice and very easy. Um, that works really, really well. We have a really, really, really good process for attracting and bringing on the right people. Because what we used to do when we were making mistakes, which was all the time, was we would bring on someone who sounded like a good fit, who said all the right things, who seemed to have the skill. Then we'd bring them on, and the execution of the projects was just the stuff of nightmares. So we learned to do this thing called a test project. Now, we pay everyone who does the test project. So what that looks like, I'll show you like an actual example, but basically what this looks like is we'll ask you before we hire you to do a sample project, and whether or not you come on board, you'll be paid for the special project. So we're not going to take advantage of you guys. We're not getting free labor by any means. I'd rather pay 12 people to find my 1 out of 12. That's a good deal for me, rather than outsource to the wrong person and have to restart the process all over again. That's the stuff of nightmares. So we basically, for every new role we hire now, we have them start with a small test project that we pay them for. So what I want to do is I want to show you the most recent one. This brought on Julia. This is how we found Julia. You may know her. She answers a lot of questions in like the inner circle. She's my content assistant. She does the majority of my Instagram content stuff now. She is quickly become so I basically got to 400,000 Instagram followers all by myself, which was remarkable. I didn't have any help. I did every dang thing myself. I scheduled every piece of content, I wrote every caption, I did all of it. Julia helps me with a lot of that now, and it's been incredible. She's just been so incredible. And so I want to show you how we found her and what that like initial project looked like, how we knew she was going to be a good fit right away. So first, let's start with the thing we emailed my list, because I think this is really important. The role, part-time content creator assistant, local in Orange County. The tasks. So notice how we talked about with Team Maria, our tasks start off as very specific and small, and then it gradually adds more. So creating 7 carousels each week based on content I have already written, training provided. Creating 14 IG stories each week based on content I have already written, training also provided. Scheduling the 5 p.m. studio reels on YouTube and Instagram already created using my phone. This is why it has to be in person. When you reply to this email, kindly mention so I know you read this fully. Thank you. These would be this is me knowing myself. This would be the 3 things to start with, and then the role would likely increase as the team member was onboarded. The pay, $250, $200, oh my God, $220, $25 based on experience. The most important part of the role, reliability and attention to detail. Frankly, I have zero patience for missed deadlines, especially when it comes to my content schedule. This piece right here is why it's taking me so long to hire the role out. I've been shocked by the number of applicants who will say, for example, I'll reach out on Friday and then don't reach out. Working for Team Maria requires you to do what you say you're going to do. That's pretty much the only requirement that I have. I'm super easygoing. You're going to kind of see this as we go through the whole, like, how I structure the team, all of that. Like, I'm actually a very laid back boss. But I have zero patience. If you say you're going to do something and you don't, I can't trust you then. Like, that's my, like, big pet peeve is, like, unreliability. So that's my big thing. But if you hit your deadlines, you could be hitting your deadlines from Bali. I don't care, as long as you're hitting your deadlines. So then she replies back and she says, I'd love to chat about this role. I'm based in Mission Viejo in Orange County, so I can do it in person. Perfect. Really important. I purposely put this in here as a way to, like, are they even reading everything? Because you can't even read the onboarding email and reply, then you're not going to be a good fit. So I got like probably 50 replies that didn't mention this. So I knew they didn't read the email fully, so they never got past that first email. She mentions, I'm based in Mission Viejo, so I can do it in person, referencing an attention to detail, which is the most important part of the role. So then I send her this email. This is the sample content project. Please make a carousel modeling this style. I mean, again, like, it's just like my Instagram content, so we don't need to get into too much. I want you to keep big picture, which is like, here are the instructions for the sample project. This one happened to be taking a YouTube video and turning it into a carousel. That was the main goal, was like, take this YouTube video, turn it into an Instagram carousel. Here's what the call to action should be. When completed, create, this was very specific instructions. I literally tell them every step of the way with the sample project, because if they can't do that, they will not do well. Email, notice how specific I am. Email the link to the Google Drive folder to Maria.f, my email address, with sample content project in the subject line. Here is the deadline. So what I wanted was a project that was so clear with such specific instructions. There was literally no questions. You don't need to ask me when it's due. You don't need to ask me how to give me the images. You don't need to ask me what the subject line should be. You don't need to ask me, make sure to grant public access so we can see it. I should not be following up asking for, the amount of people who did this project, and they were paid for it. We paid for everyone who did this, even if it wasn't good. Most of them were complete garbage. But we paid them anyways, because I'm not going to ask you to do stuff for free. It's not fair. But the amount of people who did the right sample, content project in the subject line, hit the deadline, had the right call to action, and didn't remember to grant public access, and so were disqualified, was 5 people. It's a lot. But yet, and we're going to get into this later, my philosophy has always been, most people are not a good fit, so I'm going to be really, really picky, and that's why Julia is a rock star. That is why she will be on the team for as long as she wants to be on the team, because she is super talented. And so, but each one of these sentences is me filtering out people that are not a good fit. This is super intentional. It looks like a very simple email. It filtered out something like 45, at least, candidates. At least, I think it was. So, well, I think that some people didn't even complete the project. So I think we sent this to 45 people. And then I think 12 people or so ended up submitting a project. So anyways, here was the project in a Google Drive as requested. Now, this is pretty dang close to how I do my carousels. Not perfect, but pretty close. And so, it was 95% of the way there. And so I basically replied and said, yours was the best by far. Do you want to have coffee? Because we're local. We had coffee and I hired her on the spot. That's how I found her. And the amount of people who, this is what's so important. This is why I think the sample test projects like this are really, really important. The amount of people who initially replied to the first email, if you remember, the amount of people who initially applied to the first email and sounded like really good fits, 45 people. If we would have had to figure out, of those 45 people who are applying, how on earth do we figure out? Because they all sound really good. Then the amount of people who submitted sample projects were 12 people. Out of 45 people, only one was a good fit, but she was a rock star. That's how we do it. It's this test project, but you have to do your part, right? You have to be super specific, because if you're giving unclear instructions in the project and they don't understand it, that's a huge problem. So we were very, 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 very specific on this sample project, so that if you couldn't succeed, you were eliminating yourself. We weren't eliminating you. Okay. I think what I'm going to do now is talk about how to hear the right fit. There's things that you should be listening for so you know it's a right fit. So before you hire, let's do that.